All right, so we're officially recording. Just to start from the top. The topics of today overall, the biggest topic that I wanted to talk about is bullying and the community as a whole, and how we want to try to structure the community, because the people that make the vibe of the community is the community itself. So, the moderators are doing a lot in terms of like keeping things kosher and preventing people from attacking and stuff like that. But in reality, the mods can only do so much, and it's up to the community to handle the business of, getting rid of the toxicity and stuff like that. So now we're officially recording. We continue on the topic because we initially brought up, we have brought in, I would say, Reddit as a community within our combined, not within, combined our communities together to unite the voice that each group had. That was the goal, was to combine as many social media communities and groups together for that love this game, so that way we can all share the same information, all share the same problems and voices, so that way the developers and the publishers can hear what is being said, and so they can see what needs to be done. I cut someone off before, so I'm sorry. Someone wants to speak on the topic as a general.
Yes, so just to supplement, today's topic is just more. It is a community based topic. We're promoting a healthy space to a healthy and understanding space so that people can voice their concerns, and we're at everybody. There's always that meme about Discord mods or for even Reddit mods being tyrants. I have firsthand experience with that. So I'm personally not going to try and be that, but you know my objective for today's conversation is just to try and hopefully change the people's minds on how to communicate, and you can your passion and um your passion and dedication to the game and stuff like that, that's all valid, and nobody's here to say that they're invalid. But uh, the way that you the way that you communicate that, or the impact that you leave after you say what you say, that matters the most. Your intentions are valid, but you got to remember that the impact is what everybody ever really remembers.
Yeah, I would like to speak on the Flame Chunli one because we're talking about the chess, right? The one from
Yes.
the agency.
Yes.
I think it's just multiple bad events happening into one and making it such a big thing. Because for me, I personally don't care, right? Like they have all the rights. If you buy a character, you have more privilege. You should have, if you pay money, you should have more privilege than the peoples who don't. But it is just the multiple events that like prior to this, they were locking it with Dante, right? And
Yep.
You had to have Dante to get a certain chest, and now you have to have a character, a legendary character that is not here, and that has nothing to do with the event itself. I think that's why people were like, "Oh shit!" It's like 5 summoning special tickets, and it's Flame Chun-Li, and also previously you would only need 1 copy of Virgil, maybe.
I think the biggest issue with the Flame Chung Li situation is not I agree with what you say. If people bought it, they should have special privileges, whatever. That's cool. Product and purchasing, all that stuff matters. So if I bought a Flame Chung Li and you didn't, that's a oh well, that's a you problem. The main issue here is not that people didn't buy Flame Chung Li. I think it's that when they changed or transferred over the coding to our region, they didn't change anything. In other regions, Flame Chung Li is a free unit. So it seems like a lot. I'm not saying that this is the case, but it seems like that they coded, copy and pasted, and forgot to change the Flame Chung Li thing, which then does brings up the past issue that a lot of people had, was Flame Chung Li is free, and in our region we're paying for it.
Can I just say, as someone who who has spent on the game, and like
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider myself one of those krakens that lurk in the deep and scare all of us, but I have spent a good bit on the game, and I just, for me, being able to lend my stuff out as mercs to my friends and guildies, that is a benefit I get for having bought stuff like F-John. So like when I see this stuff happening, it's not it doesn't feel like a benefit to me at all. Actually, that's just where I sit.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I guess I meant more benefit as like in this instant you can complete a mission versus someone else that they can't. So maybe it could be that the devs see that one little box as a benefit. I honestly don't know. I was just trying to say that like, you want to feel that way when you spend money on something.
I think if it was handled, like if the devs, also hello everyone.
What up, Dino?
If
Hi,
the devs,
Dino. I thought you were taking a break.
I am, but I wanted to join this. But
This is his break.
Oh, man.
This is his break. He
I
loves
guess you can
us.
say this is my break, sure. But I wanted to say one thing. I think how the devs should have done it, and I'm actually going to be critical of them because I don't think a lot of you guys have seen me actually critical on the devs. So I kind of should show that in a way. But if this was their intention, right, they should have made it a bonus opportunity. So they should have kept everything that has been for the events that you currently see for every event you've played, right? But they should add bonus chests. So if they're trying to benefit the whales or those that pay, and then also benefit the free-to-plays who have had that since day one, where they were able to access those things, then it's like, I think that's what they should have done. They should have just opened more ways to obtain things, but not diminish it, because right now it looks like it's diminishing things, because now there's not a complete, like players cannot complete what they should be able to complete. This should be like a bonus thing overall. Like if this was their plan, it should have been like a bonus structure,
I agree.
For content.
So. When we were talking about it yesterday, it was it's a really Turtle pointed out something pretty interesting. It was like they copied and pasted. So I can almost forgive an oversight there if they're just using the data that they have, or for whatever reason that the code is the way that it is. If the unit had changed properties in some way, I could see like, oh, okay, we made a hiccup. I can see that. But at first glance, when we first saw it, it was forcing players to really look at the decisions that I didn't buy Flame Chun-Li, and now I have a parameter that I need to fulfill, and I can't. I literally cannot. The unit's not available, and I can't use a mercenary so that my friend can help me. And that to me was it was very bold, and
It seemed super deliberate. It seemed super deliberate.
It seemed deliberate, and you got to think like, well, what's the payoff here? The payoff is they're artificially creating FOMO for Nero, because Nero is the same as Flame Chun-Li, right? Not mechanically, just as a product it's the same as Flame Chun-Li. So now you're a player, you're looking at this chest, and you're like, well, crap, I don't have Flame Chun-Li. How do I get her? Oh, sorry, you can't. What do you mean I can't? Well, you should have bought her 3 weeks ago. Well, I wasn't playing the game 3 weeks ago. I saw this Virgil. I'm jumping on this game right now. How do I open this chest? And, like we were talking earlier, I'll play devil's advocate here. It's one chest, right? But at the same time, it is a chest that everybody should have.
They should have access to that all.
People matter. That one chest matters to people very big.
It should have just been a bonus. Like if this was actually what they wanted to do, as I mentioned, it should have been like extra chests, but keep everything that already was in place for all the other events the same. Like that shouldn't have changed. Period.
It creates equity in units in a healthy way, healthy in quotations, because buying video game stuff wouldn't consider to be all that healthy unless you love playing the game and it makes you happy. But at the same time, it's like if you created these bonuses, like Dino's suggesting, which I agree, it would incentivize buying units like Nero or Virgil in a more constructive way if you give these units equity long term. And so the FOMO doesn't become like, oh crap, I hope the devs don't pull some tricky stuff. The FOMO becomes, well, I don't want to miss out on these new rewards that I could be potentially getting. So that environment that you create of here's the lane for free to play players, and here's the lane for players who are deciding to spend, and they're two separate lanes, but they're one's faster than the other in some way, because when you buy things you're going faster.
Yeah, and you also just, I mean, in general, you shouldn't be taking away things from anyone, period. That's the other thing
Absolutely.
we should
Yeah.
agree on. Like, let's not do that.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. I bought her.
Oh, okay.
I just played. I just
Yeah.
played.
If you said that in the general chat, you would get flames. Literally.
That's a great segue. That's a great segue into the other topic that we were going to start talking about was promoting healthy dialogue in stressful situations.
Yeah,
and
preventing bullying at the outright.
It really depends on it really depends on the individual here. So, a lot of us who pre-ordered the game or pre-downloaded, a lot of us already understand what this environment can do to your mind and to how you feel and stuff. And a lot of us have come out on top. But you got to feel for the new guys. You got to feel for the Reddit guys. It's tough to try and police somebody, and I don't want to police anybody. But at the same time, words matter, and they matter a lot.
Yeah.
And we want to hear your words. Everybody has a valid reason to say what they're going to say about the game, and whether you disagree or agree or not, you have to keep in mind that words are important. Words are super important.
One thing I will add on to that is everyone has a valid reason to feel the way they do, but no one has a valid reason to act like a child and attack someone else.
Yeah.
Just full stop. That I think that should just be made known.
Yeah, I want to add a little bit about the health of the game. Like for me, if I didn't know Street Fighter Duel, right, and then I'm just coming in from a collab, like I'm coming in from the hype of the collab itself, and then I see the Flame Chun-Li, and they're like, wait, how do I get this character? Right, it should have been Nero, right? It would make sense. Like, oh shit, I'm gonna buy Nero. I'm gonna get 5 bonus tickets rather than Flame Chun-Li itself.
That would have solved the issue so bad in an instant. Just switch Nero into
No, to be fair, if you add like Virgil instead of Flame Chun-Li, it would have been better because both free to play and pay to play can access it, even though it's behind the special summoning.
Yeah,
but
that's the point of the
Nero,
event.
it's also a good initiative, right?
Yeah,
I got A+ Virgil with 60 tickets on this go around. So we actually did pretty good today, or on this. I want to say that it worked out pretty good with the rates this time around, in my opinion.
I want to pull for Virgil, but I've just, this is just more of a side note. I want to pull for Virgil, but I'm waiting for the future.
Yep. But yeah, Zangief, you should feel good because I went 70 deep, or maybe I'm to our 80th deep without a single copy of Akuma.
Oh, bless your heart. Hang in there, champ.
Yeah, but okay. On another note of like copying coding, like I mean, it's good, right? That's like a smart way to save time and money. But like what they did with the secret training, they did the same coding for the Akuma, Evil Ryu, or was it Akuma event, where they had the same rewards for the secret training, even though we don't even use those materials anymore. I don't know if you guys saw it.
Well, I took your advice about the secret trading. So like doing 3 separate ones instead of 3 of the same one, like that was super. I had like 14,000 gems, and I was like, damn.
Wait, hold up, that matters?
Yeah.
You're supposed to do 3 different modes, so then you get 3 different leaderboard rankings.
Rewards. Man, I hate all the games, so I only do the memory one.
Oh shit!
I hate all that. Like that's the thing is like stuff like that. Oh man, I don't know how I feel about that. Like I get it, they want you to play other stuff, but just sometimes players just don't want to do stupid shit like that. That's just me.
I mean, it also like, for example, you like for the leaderboard, right? If everyone can have multiple, like 3 tries for every single mode instead of just 1 tries for everything, it's like, okay, if you're good at the game, you're gonna do that one, and you might have unlucky run, and then you're not gonna place that high in the leaderboards. Well, if you had multiple chances for that, then like the competition is gonna be more like, okay, there's no leeway for mistakes, if you know what I mean.
I mean, it's good. It's more content. I'm not saying I hate more content. I want to clarify that. It's just that this content isn't for me. I should feel like I should state that because a lot of people, and that's one thing that I noticed that like it attaches to the bullying. People just say what's on their mind and on their chest, and just throw it out there as that is the fact. And I think a lot of people needs to start learning that the world ain't just black and white the way people want it to be.
Yeah, I think all the bullying, right, or all the negativity is that they want to make change now, and that's probably their mindset of, oh, you know what, I'm gonna ruin their day. Maybe they quit, and then there's a chain reaction that, you know, something might happen. But then, of course, it's not a good way to approach it.
And then yeah, most of those people won't come back anyway. You know what I mean? Because it'd be too late. You already bullied off the people. Like, why would they want to be a part of a community like this at that point? You know?
Yeah, it's tough. I people tend to forget like where we came from and what we have in front of us, and everybody's on the same page. It's just, you know, it it's hard when the game is creating stressful situations for people. So, you know, you want to communicate, and you know, a lot of I'm going to be honest, you know, feelings get involved. It's not a you can't be a robot and
Yeah,
just be like,
no,
oh,
that's not, you're 100% right. Yeah, like,
yeah.
feelings get involved, emotions.
Empathy.
Yeah.
Empathy is the word I'm looking for. You know, just if everybody could be a little empathetic about the where, you know, who people are. You know, you get a white name that jumps in the chat. You know, just welcome them in, and just you don't know what they're dealing with today, or what or how you are today. You know, just gotta put yourself in the right mindset to create good dialogue. It doesn't have to be, you know, sunshine and rainbows and everybody's giving a hug and a high five, but you know, it'd be nice.
I think
It'd be nice to be nice.
for me.
One example for,
Yeah, go ahead.
wait, go ahead, sir.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. For me, I was just going to go on a little tangent.
One example of like bullying gone wrong, right, is that like someone spent money on Dante, right, and then like shames them that he's a bad unit. Why would you're dumb for, you know, spending your money, and then they turn out that they're gonna quit the game just because they invested their money and time for a unit, and then everyone's just flaming them for like using it or just playing it or spending on it in general.
I love the fact that you brought that up because the biggest reason why this topic came about realistically was because of what happened in the content creator. So let me give a little context for those that are not aware. A Mighty Mike, for those who don't know, he's the content creator for Street Fighter Duels, amongst other things. He is what we would be considered a whale. He has spent a considerable amount of money in Street Fighter Duels. One thing that I'm going to throw out before I continue, and this bothers the hell out of me. If no one has any right or say on how someone spends their money, full stop. You ain't earn it, keep your mouth shut. Now back to what I was going to say. So, Mikey Mike spent money, and you know, he's making content. He's putting it out there. He's helping the community. That's what that's what blows my mind, is that he's doing it for the community, doing it for passion, doing it for his reasons or whatever. But at the end of the day, the community is who's benefiting from his content. And to some people, they did not like that, and they used another content creator as a weapon, and that content creator being Painblade. Painblade, again, another wonderful content creator in this community. Like, these content creators care for the community. They try really hard. They put their heart on the sleeve and communicate with the community, not afraid to answer questions. And Painblade has a wonderful message that he pushes out to the community: is spend if you have it, but don't spend if you don't. And this is more in concern of addiction and mental health and all that stuff. So Payne was trying to promote a positive message that me personally, I'm 100% for. Mental illness is a very big thing that's for me that I try to push forward, that a lot of people struggle with. So the some people took Payne's positive message and used it as a weapon for a Marky Mark, saying, "Oh, you shouldn't spend. You know, you're not making anything beneficial to the game." Just assaulting him, his persona, his just his being and his choices and everything like that. Just attacking him outright. Payne, Hazing, they thankfully made a video in response calling out the bullshit. My video is coming out later on. I just wanted to do it with this product, but this podcast, because it's important as does that. Just don't do it. You know, regardless of what community you're in. And Reddit is a big one that we're trying to fix as well. Or
We're not trying to. It doesn't need to be fixed. It
fix.
just needs
That's
to be
what the wrong
steered.
word is.
It just needs to be steered in the right direction.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. We're trying to maneuver it where it's more of a positive outlook than negativity, because no one wants to come into a negative space.
Well, Dino said it was said something earlier about people being toxic and leaving. We gotta have some capacity to understand that people are just going to be people sometimes, and there's got to be some mental fortitude there to either turn a blind eye, or if you are going to choose to engage with that kind of drama or dialogue. Some people like that. I'm actually probably the worst offender at it. I like Facebook comments and Instagram comments. I get caught up in that sometimes, and whether that's good or bad for me, I'm not sure. But I'm still a pretty chill guy and pretty relaxed when we have to talk about something serious. But I'm not an outright troll, or I'm not trying to ruin somebody's day on purpose. Like, sometimes I get stuck in a heated argument though. So I'm not. I have my faults sometimes. But what it taught me is it taught me to be lenient or fair in dialogue, or try to understand what people's intentions are, or what people's impact they're leaving. And I said that earlier: intention and impact, people. Just make sure you know what you're intending to say, and try to keep in mind of the impact that it might leave. And if you can understand that, better each day, then you'll be a better person for it.
On the topic of other people, like, judging how someone spends and stuff like that, I guess I'm a little confused on the people who say don't spend on the game. I guess
I know why.
If here's the only thing I want to add on to the question: why would you say don't spend on the game if you care for the game and want it to succeed?
Because they misinterpret a content creator and what they say in their videos. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, some people
being 100% real. That's what it is.
Yeah, some people are bots and sheeps, but then also, like, I've been playing gacha games for like a long ass time, and of course I fall into the victim of spending too much, spending the money that I don't have, or by money that I don't have, meaning like money I should have not spent.
Yeah.
But that being said, is that I think the people that are mostly complaining, why are you spending this outrageous amount, or like all the flamings, are probably people who are familiar with the gacha industry, and just because some Street Fighter Duel players, most of them, this might be their first gacha game. Like, it's also a Marky Mark's first gacha game, right? So they don't know what they're getting into, and how how predatory it is, but some people already get used to it, right? Especially if you play like really predatory games like Raid Shadow Legends or like pop-ups every single time. But yeah, most of the general audience of Street Fighter is also quite old people, so then they're probably more well off.
I mean, but that's what. But the thing is, again, it doesn't explain why they hate so much. Like, what do they gain from it? Because it's like, let's take it outside of video games. Disney, like their amusement parks, their tickets are like $4,000 to get in. Like, that's monetization. Just not in video game sense, but like, Lord Jesus.
I think people do it though because they say like, yo, this is the only way to prove to the devs that something needs to change. So that speaks with our wallets. But the problem then becomes at what level of that, right? So let's say players actually believed in that and they really all stopped spending. It would make more sense for the company to shut down the game because then they think, oh, nobody's going to spend any more, right? So if magically like all the spenders believed that and they stopped, like the game would actually close 100%, like without notice. Or there might be like a 2-day, 3-day, week notice. Hey guys, we're closing. But I think how you approach that needs to be smarter. Maybe you should tell people instead of spending $100, only spend 10 or only spend 5 and then get your message across. Because if it takes so much, the company would rather stop the games. Like, period. Anybody involved, they would rather completely stop it because then they don't, because they, at that point, they don't think they can recoup anything. Like, they don't think it's just going to work, period. But if you guys can show it in a more reasonable way, they'd be able to make changes that makes revenue go up for them, but then makes you as players happy. So there needs to be like an interesting wording between players and how you actually say that versus like, don't spend, period. Because if you do that, that's not good either.
Here's my observation on the topic. It's like I was free to play out of protest. So that's what I feel like what we're experiencing is you know, when you create the dialogue, oh, don't spend because the game is trash or whatever. It's out of protest, and it's and for a good reason. It's a great game concept. The IP is a beloved IP. Of course, people are going to protest for what's been presented to us. But as somebody who's I pay for stuff in the game now, and I have no shame in saying that. Does it make me a shill? In some people's eyes, sure, but there are good value product in the game that will enrich your experience but not feel like you're being put in a chokehold to get. And it's a lot of it is the grants or stuff in the mall. I mean, Flame Chun-Li, I'll be honest, Flame Chun-Li for me I feel was a great buy at 25. Do I wish I bought Fashion Sakura? Maybe a little bit. Did I buy Nero? Yes. And it's more or less I bought Nero because I wanted to be a part of that. I'm trying to support the game. Yeah, I got a quote unquote discount for the product, and it shipped out the way that it shipped out. For me, I had budgeted my time and my money in order to do that. But to sit there and not spend out of protest, it is a personal choice. But in the way that the game is presented, the packages, just overall capitalism, it's not helping the game to not spend out of protest. If you're not spending on the game because you can't afford it, or you don't feel like you should be spending on the game, on your financial situation and what you believe in, by all means, Godspeed, do you, and I support you. But to outright protest it as a way to tell the devs like, hey, things need to change and stuff like that, that type of dialogue can be constructive in a way, but you'd have to present it to the devs like, hey, listen, I like what the game is. I like what I've played so far. It's not as terrible as some people say. Can you just give me something that I can latch onto to make me feel like I'm spending money on something to make me feel good? And Flame Chun-Li was a good avenue for that, but I think the damage was already done. With it all goes back to Monster Hunter Ken, maybe Akuma for a lack of another unit that I can think of, but the Gormagala Ken and the narrative that it created and the emotions that had settled in already for the existing players made it hard for people to kind of turn in their thought process. Like, I'm protesting Gormagala Ken because it's outrageous. And I'll agree, it was, because I didn't spend money at the time to get that unit. I got the free one and I said, gee whiz, thanks. Now I got these puzzle pieces. But at the same time, if we all had come together like, hey, listen, we want to be a part of this Gormagala event, but just the way that you guys did it was a little bit wrong. Can you try again another time? And then who showed up? It was Akuma, right? Akuma showed up with these red tickets, and it was just like, oh, okay. So it left the same taste in our mouths, and then people began to protest even more. And I can't criticize the devs for reacting the way that they are. Like I said, hold
on. I'm gonna stop you right there. You can't criticize the devs, and I think that's the problem.
Let me finish this last part, and I'll let you,
because I want to talk on the devs a little bit.
Yes. I can't criticize the devs for what Dino's been able to tell us, because this is a capitalist venture. At the end of the day, this is a business that's try and make money, and then, you know, the only thing that we're left to feel is the game comes second. But it is a capitalist venture. It has to be profitable. But if from me going from a free-to-play player into a light spender, there have been opportunities for me to spend and feel good about it. But I had to break that barrier. But I'm not gonna buy $100 worth of red tickets to get Virgil to triple S. That's just not in my wheelhouse. But it's one of those things where damned if you do and damned if you don't. Like Dino said, if we protest with our wallets too much, the tires start to get flat and the lights start to turn off. But from somebody who's trying to be a consumer and trying to enjoy the game, the packages should be reconstructed a different way, but it still puts stress on the economic portion of this whole conversation. It's like they can't change the packages because the game costs so much to make, allegedly.
No, you're correct. Like what you put, it puts everything on the consumer, aka the player, which is unfortunate, because it's like none of these companies, I like 100% with you. I work with these people. Even if I were to leave Crunchyroll or any company like outside of this, I will tell you, all of them want to make it easier for you. The problem is everything is politics. For example, Street Fighter as an IP, who owns it? Capcom. At some point, the players might need to blame Capcom, but you can't really blame Capcom. You have to blame companies as a whole, because now you have to say, wait, they own the IP. What does that mean? They're putting a price tag on it, folks. For us to use that, we have to pay a fee on that license. We have to pay a fee on server costs. We have to pay a fee here, there, everywhere, because there's companies that are setting this up because we need money in this world. And companies, for whatever reason, need money in this world, right? So when we understand that logic, it's like the people who are working on these games, I don't know the developers personally, but like the publishing side and things like that, they want to make things better. They want to make things easier on people. But the freaking problem is these damn costs. It's actually ridiculous how much all this shit costs. This is just me being 100%. It's actually ridiculous. And that is to blame with how corporations work and how companies literally are putting a price tag on everything you guys like. So it's like it's all fun and games, and you guys are playing games, and that's how we grew up on, was playing games. We never really thought the politics around it, but everything has some sort of politics.
Sir Toro, you had something you had wanted to add. I missed it.
Yeah, well, just to add on to like what you guys saying, and I love the fact that Dino mentioned the politics and stuff like that. What I think is that developers and companies are not changing with the times, or they're changing with the times, but just in a negative way. So like back then, when you got a game, you got a disc. That was the game. That's it. You bought a game for $60. Whatever's on that disc is everything. And now that we have access to, okay, here's the DLC, people don't gotta go to stores to get their product immediately. So that whole dynamic changed the outlook of everything, and I feel like it just became the money hungry. And
what's that meme? It's like you could buy a Big Mac, but the way that Activision structures their Big Mac is you got to buy the bread and the meat separate.
Yeah, exactly. Back
Well,
then,
yeah, times change. Times change.
well,
It's
that's what I'm
tough.
saying. I understand times change, and I'm not saying that it's bad that times change. What I'm saying is, it's times change, but how these companies and these people change with it is what's bad. And it, as a whole, like normally when someone like in movies and news and stuff like that, if they do something bad, it's always like, oh, their upbringing, their where they live, the people around them, it impacts, how they live in life and stuff like that. That's the same thing as in developers. Like they gave us a product that was rotten, and then they expect the player base not to be rotten in return, and that blows my mind. It's like the bullying nature, the anger, all the upset and everything like that. It comes from the head. If the developers show that they're not caring, that they literally just don't give a fuck, they're gonna do whatever they want to do, however they want to do it, the way they want to do it. How do they expect people to respond to that? And then the next thing is that one thing that I have with in this society is cancel culture. We don't have a way to communicate with the devs directly besides cancel culture. We can like for example, right now we have game feedback. Dino's doing his best to gather this game feedback. And player base is our responsibility to do it right. There's some people who, there are some bad eggs, but for the most part, a lot of people are actively trying to make this game better by doing proper game feedback. What other game has that? What other company is doing that? Like, we don't have access to the developers to say, hey, do this. And then the other issue is like, even when we do have that, for example, now Dino's giving them the information and stuff like that, the developers are just taking it and wiping their ass with it. It's just the toilet paper to them. They don't care what's being handed to them. So, like, it has to come from the head. The community stems from that, and that's what I'm noticing. Because there's a lot of games where the developers care, and their community is like the shining pillar examples of what everyone should be. And then there's the opposite where the devs don't care and the community doesn't care, and it's just like a barren wasteland of lawlessness.
It's never easy because, like, for example, we know that people love Street Fighter, which is exactly why, like, Crunchyroll Games or any other publisher, there's so many publishers on global market, they understand that too, and they're fans as well. That's why they bring this stuff. But players think it's like, oh no, they're bringing it to ruin it, but that doesn't make sense, right? But again, everything you guys love, there is some sort of politics, and it goes back to that. There is. And there would be something where, like, I know this is something that Crunchyroll is exploring, but they want to look into original IPs. But, like, when I tell people that, it's like, for them, it's like, well, I didn't grow up with your original IPs. I grew up with Street Fighter. You know what I mean? So that's why companies want to invest in these titles, because there's interest in that, because they don't know if their original IPs will succeed. But what's crazy is the original IPs is the one that has less costs, but it doesn't get most community support. But there is some games that do, like Genshin Impact, for example. Genshin Impact, that's an original IP by MiHoYo, or whatever they're Hoyoverse, whatever they're called now. That's theirs. Original IP. Thankfully, it worked for them. They can make some adjustments, changes, sacrifices, etc. Players are supporting it. Like for them, it's easy because they own everything and they're able to make changes based off of that. But like when there's so many different companies involved, it's like, what do we do? Like there's nothing we can do because there's too much things involved that takes more people to look at because of the structure of all these costs, all these profits, trying to fit the bill on everything. It's crazy, but it's like in the end, the employees are the ones trying to bring these games, but the problem is the damn costs and the politics around that. So I'm sure Crunchyroll Games would love to have Street Fighter Duel be a game that'd be lasting for like 10 years. But like that would only be if Capcom said, look, or I mean, I'm not saying it's just Capcom, but like let's just not involve the devs, but let's just say Capcom. Capcom's like, look, we'll just give you the Street Fighter IP. You don't have to pay anything. But realistically in life, that doesn't happen. But then there's like a gacha game, for example. There's one like Pokemon one. I've seen like a creator cover it. It's not an official one. I mean, Pokemon can go to that app and sue them and they'd lose all that money. And then obviously the game shuts down. So that's why Crunchyroll Games can't do that. There's always legal issues. Like, you know what I mean? Like Crunchyroll Games can't do that because we're following, you know, legal stuff that to be official as a game, we need to purchase this. So
Yeah.
how do we keep that going, right? So
You know what? I just thought of something. There's a bit of irony here, right? So, I mean, I'll just turn the filter off. You know, we're feeding we're feeding the capitalist pig, right? But you know, guys like Mark and the content creators and the whales who spend money, like they're one of the biggest, you know, proprietors of what we're trying to accomplish here. You know what I mean? Like they're helping keep the lights on, even if there are just a few outstanding individuals with expendable income. It's ironic that we attack those people who just support the game the way that it is. And you know, if that, I've been critical of the game before. We can all be critical of the game because we like the game and we like the characters and we like what we see so far. It can be tweaked just to be a little bit better because of other games that we played, but it's just it at the end of the day, like we just gotta help this be a good enough venture for it to stick around long enough to be a good enough venture. And you got like guys like Mark and the whales who and the other whales who join the game to play the game and enjoy the game. They're honestly the people who's helping set up for the next month or so with what they're doing. So I mean, whale's gonna whale. Am I right?
I'm starting to feel like the people who complain about other people's spending, they've never been broke. They've never been broke because they never experienced, you know, having their electricity cut off on them. They never experienced not having food on their tables and stuff like that. Because I'd be damn, I don't understand why I'm going to tell a person who's paying my rent to screw off. That has to be the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Oh, you know, you're keeping the game that I absolutely love and I wish that could last forever. You're keeping it alive and you're paying for it because I can't afford it. I appreciate it, but you need to get out because you just spent all that money. Like, how does that work? Like, because I remember one time we had a conversation in a podcast talking about the ecosystem. How it's the wide ocean and then there's krakens, whales, dolphins, gummy fishes, all that stuff like that. We need these people just the same way as they need us. It's a universal thing of, you know, we're trying to work and make what we enjoy better. So that's like saying, oh, I'm gonna hate Tix because he's free to play and he's in chapter 37 after me spending, thank you, symbiotic, after me spending, I spent $100 and I'm only on chapter 30. I hate you, Tix. How dare you be better at the game than me? Like, I feel like people are not hearing or seeing what they're saying, or they just don't care. All right, have a good day, man. Be safe.
Yeah, I mean, Flake was like the one guy who actually hate me because of how high I can achieve, right, for not spending, and how much he spends and he can't achieve it, right? But then after a while, he loosened up, right? And then he's like, actually, wait, you're not that bad because you also helped me, right? I was like, oh shit. But then yeah, okay. At the beginning, if you realized Flake's phases, he was quite hostile to the free to play, but then more and more accepting when the time passes.
Yeah, and I guess I don't understand that the hostility, and I guess it also comes to the topic that you brought up a while ago, the spicy topic of gatekeeping. It all falls in line. It all falls together because it's like I'm going to gatekeep information so whales won't be better, and then whales are like, I'm gonna gatekeep the information so free to play won't catch up. Like, how is that good?
Okay, so I mean, I don't agree, right? But then, like for me, like people who spend, they should have an advantage, right? And people who don't spend, they always try to seek any competitive edge for the people who does spend, so then they could go above what they're supposed to. But then, for example, if you spend $1,000 and you're free to, and the other person's free to play, and the free to play is, higher than you, then they're like, oh wait, why did I spend this? Or like, it's unfair and stuff like that. So then they start to complain. But then once the free to play also gets out walleted or out power crap, right? And then they start to complain. But I personally agree that like people who spend should deserve a higher placement, should deserve better awards and stuff like that because they do spend, right? It's only fair.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I confused on is this, like, this is not something new. We see this all across the world. There's first class tickets when you fly a plane. They don't give that out to everybody. There's jets and limos and VIP areas and clubs and stuff like that. The fast lines on Disney. Order online so that way you can skip the line. It's all about the simplicity then, and being catered to. Money that comes from money, and you don't got it, and you ain't getting the stuff. It's harsh, but that's the way it is. Like, that's just the world. This game wants you to compete with 1,000 plus players in battle zones to get 10 special tickets. If players can fall in through, nobody can progress. Well, so casual. The reason why I brought the whole gatekeeping thing up and like and stuff like that is just that I feel like that it's the opposite of that case. If everyone worked together, it pushes everyone to progress together as well. So, like, I'll use the example. Tix game told me about Abel. And till this day I'm like, I thanks Tix, because me putting Abel on as an assist, obviously he's good as a tank and everything, but for this one moment, Tix was like, put him as an assist, see if you will beat the mission. Put him as an assist, and I beat the mission. And I keep telling him, like, bro, thank you so much. He didn't have to help me, but the fact that he did is amazing. That's where that's what makes the community. And he didn't. He could have just been like, "Nah, screw you. You spent money. You did this, whatever. I don't have to help you with anything." So I guess that's why it's like, especially as a person that wants to give information, that loves theory crafting, and I'm gonna go to people and be like, "Look at this. Look at what I see." I guess I don't understand why you would if you have the cure for cancer, why wouldn't you share it?
I think it's like also people are when they discover something or they have a really good thing that is not widely known, they like to patent it themselves, right? So then this is mine, right? So then they don't want, when you see other people start to use the same stuff, it like devalues your information or your knowledge. So then that's why I think people just keep it to themselves. And then, well, okay, sometimes there's like general information that's easy to find that you can just see everywhere, right? And then there's some that it's like, wait, you gotta like stumble upon it somehow or like research upon it really hard, and then you do find your thing, and then you probably want to capitalize it first, and then you can just spread it out. But I mean, I don't do that. I usually don't gatekeep most of my information, and I think it's more because yeah, people like to keep that as a weapon, so then they can use it like as a last ditch effort. For example, like you're doing really well in the event, and you're showing all your hands, all your cards, all your gimmicks, right at the get go, and then right when the leaderboards are about to finish, like the jury event leaderboards are about to finish, like they already know what your teams are, what to expect, and like how in every sport, like any analytics or any data that you have on the opponent, then that you can use that against them. So then you're basically nerfing yourself, and potentially not getting the higher leaderboard scores. That's why people just either wait. Like I know Sylvis, right? Sylvis is the most keep information to yourself person, and he usually doesn't hit the bosses right when the boss appears. So then what he does is just calculate his teams and then just not let the run through, and like right when it's about to finish, he starts to do his actual runs. So then people can't just like either not just copy and paste, just like use his weapons against him, because he knows that he doesn't maybe have the best characters compared to the battle zone, because they could either replicate it, or use the same tactic and build upon it.
I mean, I guess I understand what that does for him personally. You know, you don't want to give out your secrets if you're number one, because then everybody else. I don't know. I guess it's just that I don't understand it, and maybe I'm not that type of player, so I'm trying not to disrespect anyone who plays like that or not understanding why.
I think it's also because like if you're too used to getting the higher reward tiers, and you're not getting it anymore, it also like it feels like a big FOMO for themselves, and they know that they did it to themselves. So I personally, like if someone asked me how I did, like right now, like how do you do that much score with Gal, I just straight up tell them the workbench and the stuff I did, and I even showed the video of my Guile team, right? And then they can use that as they please or something like that. But then some people don't want to share it, or share it at the very end when you can't capitalize it anymore.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll use this. This is, I guess, this is where I'll explain on my part that why how I feel on it. Dawson, obviously, I've been pushing him since day one. Day one. Hell, I've been pushing him since day one. Pre-register, I was like, Dawson is the way to go. Right? And now, just today, Greg shared a 1 billion damage with Dawson. And now every now and again, I see people like, oh, they're building Dawson and stuff like that. I personally, I love the fact that everyone's using Dawson. That I was right. I do dislike the fact that it's now meta and everybody is on it, but that's a me problem. That's more of a personal thing. Like, I'm not gonna hate on other people for using what I've been preaching and know that it's good. Do I feel some type of way that I'm not getting the 1 billion? Yeah, sure. But again, that's a me problem. That's because I'm not pushing for those numbers. Am I gonna attack Greg because he's doing that? No, absolutely not. If anything, me as a dolphin pusher, I'm like, yeah, bro, show the world what stretchy yoga can do. Show them that they were all wrong and we are right.
Dude, Sir Turtle, it must feel really bad that elemental damage is really screwed over in this event.
Oh, so for me, it doesn't impact me as much because, like, for these other events, all I see these events are material stuff. I see them as,
Yeah.
ooh, more mats. Like, getting the top 50 on the leaderboard, I'm probably gonna get, like, greened in the comment system. I don't care. I literally do not bother. I only attack the boss for the missions that are given in the event. So they're like, do 3 attacks and you'll get diamonds. I'm like, bet. 3 attacks, put them on auto. I'll go to the bathroom. I come back. All right, cool, and I move on.
Yeah, that's where different players come about. But then for me personally, I don't know if everyone is also the same. But then like these leaderboards event, it's like the few things that isn't like usual daily stuff or something like that. This is like when the time to shine or the time to actually
Absolutely.
compete.
I think the leaderboard events they should stay in their mandatory. They are wonderful for the game and for the community. Yeah, I'm not saying that it should go away. I'm not saying it should be changed. No. These events, chef's kiss. I think these events are all around amazing for free to play, amazing for spenders as a whole. You know, everybody got something that they could do. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just want to clarify that I'm not saying that these leaderboard stuffs are bad. No. These things are mandatory, and it causes people to come to the community and say, "How can I beat this guy with 1 billion damage?" That's what I love.
Exactly. I mean, for me, what I'm saying is like these the leaderboards boards event, like you usually don't don't pay too much attention to it. But then I personally feel like these events actually retain the players because they actually get intrigued and maybe more emotionally attached. Like if you are fighting for the top 50 slot and you have like the hardships to endure the warfare, the battles to get that spot, and then in the end you do run home with the glory prize of like the frame or of the summons, you can proudly like wear it, and then you get more emotionally attached to the game, which also drives the longevity of you playing the game.
It does.
But then
Yeah. No, I'm gonna
like,
go ahead.
for me, like a lot of players don't like the battle merges. I mean the zone merges. I personally like, okay, for maybe I'm a bad example, right? Because I still do get the top 50 rewards or something like that, and I don't see the impact for it more. But for me, like in the long term, a lot of players do have more opportunities to rank the top 50, but in the top 50 becomes more exclusive. So then the value of the frames that you wear, it makes it feel like not a lot of people can use the exact same frame. So then it makes it more prestigious. I mean, I personally like the battle merges, but then of course, if they implement it steadily, but not like some crazy big influx at once of new servers. Wait, did it impact you positively for your guild recruiting? Do you get more members?
I haven't gotten there. I haven't gotten squat. No one knows what's going on. I'm putting out guild recruitments every day. Every time I'm on the game, I push it out. It's not easy.
Yeah. Do you know why? It's because they're used to their own guild. Like this FEG would make or break it, right? Because they're used to their own guilds ranking number one, right? So then they, in their minds, it's like, I'm not gonna leave my guild because I know my previous events, my guild ranked number one, so they have emotionally attachment to it. But then, like, once they don't, for example, right, like, I think there's like a bunch of either 4 or 5 new guilds that is like really really strong competitors and from my battle zone. And prior to that, there was like only one, like in my battle zone only one prevailed. But then now there's like 5 others that is really really strong. And that's it, it makes it harder to, you know, bring people in because they're more used to their own guild being like, okay, I'm used to
people don't
my
wanna
battle
leave.
zones. I don't know the infos of others if they're good or not.
Yeah, because at this point I'm like looking through the guild chats and the recruitments and stuff like that, and I'm looking for anyone that posts that they're within server 1 through 25, and I'm hitting them up like, hey, you want to merge guilds? Because apparently, you know, you have low numbers, I have these not as low numbers, but we could fill our numbers out. And every time if I do get a response, it's met with skepticism because they don't want to like leave what they know. They don't want to risk. They don't want to take that chance.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just frustrating. I think for me, like I was pushing very hard for the server stuff, and I will always make a comment and stuff like that. But what? I guess this is my question for Dino if he's still around. What can we do as a player base to impact or communicate with the devs outside of what's already happening? Or how can we, like, let's say Dino never existed, or this is another game or this is another community. What do we as a community supposed to do to try to make this relationship be better or worse? Because like devs don't communicate with us, so how do we as a player base handle this?
The only thing that will set the community apart, so that's the most important thing I think, is how do you guys as a community set yourself apart from others, from other game communities? And I think this is what I was trying to approach. When we did game feedback before, I didn't have this rule implemented, but when we had the MH Ken fiasco and stuff, obviously people were just, there was like no topic, reason, people were just shitting completely on the game. In the event, in how it was handled, and etc. And there was obviously a lot of curse words and like "fu" and etc. So all that obviously was sent to those teams. Obviously, I didn't send word for word every single one of those, but I sent a lot of the harsh ones and a lot of the ones that were also reasonable. So I had to send both perspectives, but the overall thing was it was over 7,000 upvotes. Obviously, that doesn't set you guys apart from the community already. Because now they're aware who you guys are or how you guys are. So the only way you're gonna change anything in this game is how you guys approach game feedbacks moving forward. Because I mean, you're not gonna be able to stop everyone, but there is obviously like Reddit and Discord and social media where people are just kind of like, you know, fuck you, Crunchyroll. I mean, even though it's not Crunchyroll in this case, you know, the developers make the decision. We're still going to see that, but the devs know that too. So the devs will just kind of see you guys as that. It's like just a full people of complainers. They don't spend a dime on this game, so they have no word for this game. That's how they'll always view you guys because you guys view them negatively. So the only way you're going to ultimately switch anything, any feedback that you give, is how you approach game feedback, like being respectful, saying, "Hey, I love this game," etc. But I do think you guys need to change this, and here's why. And you give detailed approaches and be like, you know, really respectful to them and be a human being, and you know, really showcase that you are an adult. I mean, some people who are playing this is obviously not an adult; they're a teen or something. But the teens also need to grow up a little bit, and the things they've learned in school should be applied to how you do feedback. Actually, school is an interesting one because people are like, yo, school is useless. And I agree. I actually am one of you guys. I think a lot of things that school teaches is pretty useless. But I think being polite, how you word things, how you structure things, you should actually know this stuff fully, because you might come to an instance where this happens. So when you want to get a point across, get anything across, that's what you have to do. So you're going to have to be much more respectful to the developers in this case, to make anything happen. Because if you don't, you're not gonna get through them, and that's just like the 100% thing. Then everything else is just data and things like that. But you got to prove to them that you're more than just data. You are an actual reasonable human being that they should support. You know what I mean? Like you are a community that they should support. So that's how you have to make them think, you know, and that it's not just a data sheet. Like, sure, you can use your data, but you also use this too. We are reasonable human beings. We do appreciate what you guys are doing. We just want to make sure that you make this game better. So that in itself, the moment the gaming community, specifically this community, can do that, I think there would be changes. 100%. I actually believe in that. Like I do, but we don't see that too much. And I think you know, the first impression obviously was the worst one for Topjoy. I'll just be 100%. When Monster Hunter Ken hit, they obviously seen those comments that was all sent over. So I think that's going to be hard to bounce back from that, but it's not the end of the world, is what I'll say.
Do you know if
I have a question real quick. Sorry to cut you off, Tick, because you mentioned first impressions. So, what do they think their first impressions were for us? Like, how do they think that they're saints and that they're perfect? I guess my question is like, do the devs legitimately think that they're not doing anything wrong?
I wouldn't say that, because again, the developers, this development crew in specific, they are from the old times. So because of that, the way they look at this gacha game and all previous gacha games they worked on, they do it the same way. And because they're old heads and they've been doing this for a while, they haven't really adapted to the global market, because they don't know the global market yet, which we have to teach them that. And B, you know, they don't know the competition. The competition is huge for gacha games, and I don't think they've understood or realized that things have changed. So they do have to adapt based on a lot of those changes that is happening in the gacha world specifically. And they need to set themselves apart as well. You know, like, I'm not saying that they're perfect. Absolutely not. Nobody's perfect. No, I'm not even perfect. You know, that's what I'm telling you. But the other thing around that is, again, if a developer is working on a game and they just see that the community ultimately hates them, you know, that's not too motivating either, right? So the first impression thing is obviously the big kicker. They were obviously not expecting people to target the game the way they did, because it was like the first event, right? Like, I get it. First event, people are like, yo, gacha games don't do it like this. Hold on, buddy. Like, you know, nothing about this was free to play. You know, how people approach that, I think they could have been nicer. They'd be like, yo, devs, like, this is not how you approach the first event. That's how people should have been. But the way people were like, yo, this game, da 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 da, yada yada yada. That's what happened. That's ultimately what happened. So for that to be sent over to them, I mean, I get why they might not listen to you guys in that extent. So that's why I switched entirely how game feedback is submitted. Now you got to be respectful. You got to use in-game terminology. You got to be a human that's respectful to people. All those stuff, hit those marks, make the devs now think that you're something different. And that everybody that came during the game at the start was just trolls. And not to listen to them, but listen to you guys because you're still playing the game. That's ultimately the reason why I put that rule section, was so that they can take you guys a little bit more seriously now. And most of the feedbacks look really good. So I'm hoping that as time goes on, they can see like, oh, we now have a genuine community. This is not the community from the Monster Hunter Ken one. We have a community of those that came after the event or still stayed once that event hit. You know what I mean? So you have to change the perspective slowly. But I would say like the Monster Hunter Ken thing was the first impression, and you know, it's hard to bounce back, but it's not the end all be all.
Do you know if the Nero implementation was a success, or is it too early to say it?
I know the data personally, but I can't share that just yet. So that's all I can say. Like I can't share it. I have the data. It's also too early because again the event is pretty new. But I do have the data, and I will say I have it, but I can't.
It's too
put guys in the
early
exact
to
number.
tell. Yeah, because we can still wait on the last day and people will buy it or whatever. So there's still
That's when
potential.
the real promo hits.
But I hope that
let's
answered
say-
your question. Hopefully that answered your question,
Right?
So I do have I guess like my ish.
I know.
What up, Pika?
Yeah. What's up?
So
No. Continue.
I just wanted to, on the topic of like again going back to the topic of like first impressions and stuff like that, and their old heads and their they don't know whatever. I guess that blows my mind in an extent because it's just like in this day and age that can't really be used as a good excuse, you know, with the way the world is in the World Wide Web and how fast information is spread around, for them to not adapt or be able to learn from it. It's like, how old are they that they just like, are they 80, 90 years old type of people? Like like the decisions that they're making is questionable, and it looks
Right, but Sir Turtle, can you also admit that when people say "fuck you," "fuck the devs," and doing death threats, that might actually, you know?
oh
be
yeah, no, hands down, 100%.
That's what we sent. I just want to be clear. We sent all those comments just to be 100%.
Yeah, no,
we have to. That's my job. I have to tell them what you guys are saying. So that was your first impression.
I think what
So
I'm
now
trying
you
to
have
say
rebuild
is that it was our first impression, but it was also their first impression. So that's what I'm trying to say is that we're pointing fingers at them and they're pointing fingers at us. But I think there's a statement. I don't know what's the right way to say it, but if you're pointing one finger at me, that means there's three pointing back at you. So they're not clean. Their hands are not clear of this blood. They may not have been disrespectful and say curses like us, but to a lot of the player base, it acted as if that was the case. Like being a cash grab and all of that, it's like a slap in the face at the end of the day. Like, yeah, they want to make money, but how you do it, don't take me to the back room.
Oh,
Turtle.
I will edit and bleep it out.
you can't.
So Turtle, with like the internet thing, like you have to remember that internet in China is vastly different from what we have, as well as when it comes to like the backlash that we gave them.
They probably
We're able to be more anonymous, right? Like over there, you have to like submit like your actual information to even play a game, right? Here, it's completely anonymous, so people feel way more comfortable doing things they wouldn't have done if like their actual identification was attached.
Keyboard warrior
culture
thing,
shock.
100%.
That has to be a culture shock for them. Like when Don Buka mentioned it, that's probably a culture shock more than anything.
100%.
May I speak something?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, is my mic working fine? Like, can you hear me, or I have internet issues again?
No, you sound way more clear than before, so I think you fixed whatever your problems were. At least for me.
So this is something as software developers and game developers that we learned from Chinese and Japanese culture, okay, and Korean. We learned one thing: if it's not their property, the publishers or anybody, we sign the contract, we get the money, we make the game, and we make profit from it gradually. Like we have a small percentage of shares from whatever they sell. But it's not the big buck. The big buck that we made is from getting paid for our product. So what we do next is work slowly on the game, care less, and start on another project with another publisher that will give us massive money to start a project. And this is, we learned it from the Chinese. And this is the old mentality of them. And I think to a certain extent, it's showing now in this game, and this is what's going on, to be honest. That's my opinion, something like I discovered or whatever, and I'm telling you how we did it. I know it's not good, not ethical, but this is how we worked, and this is what we learned from them, and this is how we made more money. Because if I'm a developer and they paid me to make the game for them, and I made the money from this money that they gave me, and the small shares just provides a little bit for me, I will search for another publisher that want a game, and I will develop a new project for them. And they are right now working on a new project, Top Joy, and they announce it, and it's upcoming soon. So this is why the shift in the priority of this game went to another game. This is just logical thinking, and this is an experience that we gained actually, and what we learned from the Chinese. If it was a company that owns the IP and owns the devs and they're part of their team, that's a different story.
Also, one other thing I wanted to mention, because when the Monster Hunter Ken fiasco happened too, I think the ultimate thing was when people left that feedback, they probably viewed it like that feedback directed towards the publisher, because so many people at that time had no idea that Topjoy was the one doing things. But in reality, we were the ones sending that feedback. So like the devs themselves felt obviously targeted, but the devs don't know that we haven't really made it public that they're in charge of the game. So I think there's a mix to that now that I think about it. Because again, how people have viewed it and how people have said it, they always felt that like Crunchyroll as the publisher on the global side, the English company, when they see this, they should be used to this. But what the reality is every game that's under Crunchyroll Games, it's the opposite. And it's the developers that are actually calling the shots on this stuff. So when you guys send those comments in, like, sure, it directs at Crunchyroll, but even though like it's not the dev's name, they're going to take offense to it. You know what I mean? Because they're the ones that's making the game the way it is. So I think there was like a mix of clash. I don't know if that would have changed how people said stuff personally. Like, I don't know if people would have been more polite had they had known that Topjoy was actually in charge of the game. But again, that's kind of like, what if? Like, what if now the info people had today, Monster Hunter Ken happened, would people be more polite with their feedback, or would they still be the same? You know what I mean? Like that ultimately I'm curious too.
To be honest, with the way people are, I don't think they would have
Are we
cared.
talking if it was the same way, hypothetically, or
Like hypothetically, if people knew that Topjoy was running things and not Crunchyroll, because when the Monster Hunter Ken thing happened, people always think that the publisher's in charge of stuff. So any of the comments they say, they think they're directing it at Crunchyroll. But these comments theoretically actually directed it to the Chinese developer. You know what I mean?
I don't think it matters though. At that point, because
I think it does.
well, I would love to hear why. Because at this point, if someone's angry, here's the only thing I want to say: if someone's angry, they're not going to care who they're angry at. Yeah.
Yeah. The reason why I say that
and one more thing, when the comments were there, most of the comments said Crunchyroll. So even if the devs were reading, 90% of the comments were actually saying Crunchyroll, you are greedy. So if the devs have 1% of human analytics, they will understand that people don't understand. Yeah, they're not talking about them. Plus, it's very stupid from them. This is how they are the ones that telling the publisher, "Oh, people are mean to us. Go yourself, man. What do you mean? What do you mean? Like, if the devs are talking like this, they want a way out. They're not seeking like compromisation. They want a way out. Like, we gave you the product. We're gonna work on it on terms for a specific time, and then we're gonna rerun shit. And when you see reruns in a game, it means the game is dying slowly, and they're not working on new or special contents. This collab is a semi-rerun, by the way. It's the same shit, but in 3 teams or in different styles, the models added to it what Akuma had. It's a rerun. People don't understand this. Watch any game that had a rerun and check how much time it stayed before they died. Okay, I hope this game flourish, works more, developers want to work more. I don't know. Maybe publishers will make another deal with them for it to stay. It's really. I wish that the publisher were owning the IP, because this game could be breaking charts. Especially if it was their IP, they will like enhance the monetization to a way that it has strategy. I don't know.
The only way this
seems like unexperienced.
Yeah, no, I agree,
Yeah.
but I would say the only way that would happen is if Capcom themselves, they were in charge of this game, but they weren't. Like, they didn't want to work on this game. That's just to be 100% transparent. There's publishers and those that own the IP. They're like, no, we actually don't want to work on this. Like, this is not our thing. The developers, if anything, were the ones to pitch that idea. to them. So,
Well, I just wanted
the timing, you know, Capcom could work, but SF6 was there. You know, if there was no concept or nothing they wanted to work, or Street Fighter 6 was next year, and this is the only game that includes Street Fighter, Capcom will invest 100% in it. Capcom will make it the best game ever. But because there was another project, which is a bigger project, which is Street Fighter 6, and yes, it is a bigger project. This is why this game became a side game for them. And they're not interested in it. It's a mobile game. A computer game is better than a mobile game. Everybody knows that.
I think I wanted to answer Turtle's question earlier. It was like why I feel it would be different in regards to the game feedback about Crunchyroll. So Crunchyroll had already had a stigma of their game history, and we had learned that Sony had acquired Crunchyroll and they were going to try and do things different and things along that narrative. But the reason why I feel it's different is because of the stigma that Crunchyroll had already held. So if everybody had knew that it was the developers who made the decisions, then the Crunchyroll had already had their quote unquote sins to bear with their game history already. So if you look at it at a lens like, okay, so Crunchyroll closed games and made bad decisions, so this Monster Hunter Ken has to be Crunchyroll's fault. But in actuality, out of respect to the business deal with Sony and what they're trying to do moving forward and having a community manager position and things like that, stuff that they didn't have, it was like, if it would have been different if it was said that the developers weren't, or
But that's what I'm trying to
developers had
say.
made them.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that part that I don't understand, because the anger initially wasn't Crunchyroll always does this. That came after people were starting to spread it. The anger was, this game is this is bad, this is this, right? All the bugs, mistranslations, or whatever. What I'm trying to say is, it's like the anger was at the what the game is doing, and if it was known that it was Top Joy doing it from the beginning, the same statements would have been sent. That's what I'm trying to say.
you think it would be the same?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't think it did. It doesn't
Okay.
change the vitriol. It's like, I'm gonna fling shit at somebody. It doesn't matter who, but I'm gonna hit somebody. It just happened to be that Crunchyroll was the front line and Top Joy is hiding behind. But if Top Joy was in the front line, it still would have been flung regardless. That's what I was trying to get at. I don't think the name made a difference at the anger. The anger would have just still been flung.
Yeah. Well, shoot, I had another point about the stigma. I'll get back to it in a minute.
And the whole point on the devs and like the first impression and everything like that, I 100% agree. I 100% agree, because I said it multiple times. If I was a dev and I'm being a human and I being a petty human, if you're gonna call out something about my product and say this, that, and the third, you're gonna curse at me and whatever, I, in return, guess what? I'm human. I'm gonna respond to your bullshit, and you're not gonna like my response. Because in this dynamic of a relationship, guess what? I have more power than you.
There's something I want to shed light on. I want to shed light on one thing. intentional stuff that is the devs are making are just ridiculous. It hurts the publishers. It hurts the sales of the game and the rotation, and it destroys the data, the player base. They're doing decisions that are unreal, man. Like it's a small thing that happened today, which is in the event, which is big to the player base, that the devs knew that it will explode, and they know they're gonna get trash from it, but they did it anyway. They knew what they were doing because they made the prize in the box the most valuable prize. Imagine you need Flame Chun-Li, the legendary unit, to clear an event which is not related to her, and she's now unavailable in the game. Even if a new player or somebody decided now to buy her to complete the event and to have her, or if they were like, the intention was to promote her, so people are forced to buy her, it's not there. It's not in the game. You can't clear the event. You'll miss on the 5 tickets. And it's just, maybe you'll not get anything with the 5 tickets, but it's just frustrating to the player base that why are you tweeting that? They are punishing you for prior decisions that you didn't make, for not buying it in the first place.
Yeah.
It's just malicious act. Why would you punish a player? Instead, put Flame Chun-Li, the pack is gone, make another strategy, 15 shards every day for $1, or 10 shards every day for $1. You will make the players go towards buying these packs, and you will revive again the money and the monetization for Flame Chun-Li. This is another strategy.
Dino brought up a good point.
Or put Nero. Yeah, or put Nero. Nero is one featured in the event. Why Flame Chun-Li? And this is like everybody exploded. You know, you check Reddit. It's all talking about it, and I'm sick of seeing it. But yeah, they have a point actually. Why are they angry?
Dino said that you know the best way to approach it would have been additional rewards for having the unit instead of creating a parameter to have the unit. You would create a benefit to having the unit, and it would create equity. But the thing I wasn't remembering earlier, and you already said it, was the developer is not making the publisher's job easy. And, you know, Dino, I'm sorry, but I'll say this right now, is like, I want to say that both of them know what they're doing, but, you know, that's just me being a critic and a skeptic. But I trust you, Dino. You've been everything but transparent when you can be. But you know, it's just like if we're looking at it through Dino's perspective, it's like the developer is not making the publisher's job any easier here, folks. It's like what the hardest thing is the developers are trying to keep feeding this venture, but it's getting tougher by the day, it seems. And I agree with Pika too. It's like, you know, when you see a repeat event. And you know, it's not a bad event though. It just it doesn't bode well optically to see the same thing again. But you can't just toss all of these limited ticket units all at one time either. You know, unless you make the event like a month long, which would like to balance that is a problem, and the balancing has always been an issue in the game. So it's tough. It's tough to formulate an articulate opinion.
All right, here's my question: how long has gacha games been around in general?